So now that we've got an up close and personal look at the Parthenon here, we can see that it stands as one of the best, most exceptional examples of Doric Greek architecture in all the world. And that means a couple different things. So first of all, in terms of its layout, it's got the classic Greek temple layout, right? So you would enter over on this side here into what's known as the pronaos, or the entry vestibule. And from there you would carry yourself further into the temple, into the naos, or the sanctuary, where the cult statue would be held. And then finally, opening onto the back side of the temple, you have what's known as the opisthodomos. And that's the treasury where the gifts to the goddess Athena would have been kept. We also get the classic Doric architectural elements. So we've got these large, thick columns that are fluted. They sit exactly on top of the stylobate with no pedestal for each column. Then the columns themselves are capped by these kind of bowl-shaped plain capitals. And finally, above that, in the architrave, the kind of long thing that runs above the columns there, we have triglyphs, the three vertical lines, and metopes, the spaces, the square spaces that intersperse those triglyphs. Now, in some buildings, those metopes are left blank. But here on the Parthenon, they're exquisitely decorated, and 92 different sculptures carry themselves around the architrave of the Parthenon itself. Now, even though what we're looking at looks kind of perfectly straight in many different ways, right? Vertical columns, a horizontal stylobate, there's almost no straight line on the Parthenon itself. And here's what I mean by that. There's a series of what we might consider almost like optical illusions here. So when you look at the columns, even though they look straight, they actually bulge very slightly in the middle. And then the stylobate itself, it's actually a little higher in the middle than it is on the sides. And that curvature extends to the architrave above too. And the columns that sit there are actually angled very, very slightly inwards. And what that means is if you extended those columns all the way up to the sky, they would meet somewhere about 1.5 miles above the Acropolis here. Now, some of this is functional, right? So when it rains, right, this helps the rainwater drip off the sides. But in large part, it helps, or it's meant to help, our optical or visual perception of the building. And so when you look at it from a distance, all these little curvatures make it look perfectly straight. And the angle of the columns make it look taller and sturdier than it would if those were perfectly vertical. So let this kind of, keep this in mind, and let this kind of be a lesson at the immense amount of detail that went into the design and creation of the architecture of the Parthenon.